Okay, I'm gonna call to order today's meeting of the Personnel, Finance, and Auxiliary Services Committee. It is Monday, January 27th, and it is 5:31 PM. We are in the Village Hall Upper Level Conference Room, 3344/45 at West 156 North 8480 Pilgrim Road. A live broadcast will be streamed on the school district's YouTube page. To watch the recorded meeting, please visit our School District of Menominee Falls YouTube site. Was the meeting properly posted?
Yes,
Okay.
it was.
The first item would be minutes approval for the meeting on December 9th. Can I get a motion to approve? Motion by Ms. Holzman and seconded by Mr. Whopper. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. We have two items for discussion. The first one is the enrollment projections.
Alrighty, so this information is posted on Word docs in Excel. I will go through these projections up on the screen, but again, they're online. So the tool that we're using for these is called PowerSchool Enrollment Analytics. So we have this tool for 3 years. We're currently in year 2 of it. And the data from the tool takes into account housing, it takes into account birth rates. So it should be our most accurate projection. But our projection is just our best guess at the time with the data that we have. So, excuse me, the information that we are looking at is actually from spring of last year, which puts us in an interesting spot to say, okay, in spring of last year, what were the 24-25 projections and how does that compare to actual? So, because normally we just project and then it's like, okay, well, we have to go back and let's compare what that projection looked like to actual. So that's why we're using last spring's data to look at this. We have this information by school, so each school has a tab, and then there's a total. So I'll start here at the totals tab, and just for visual purposes, I have highlighted the 24-25, so the current school year for each, and I'm just gonna look at the graphs because pictures are worth 1,000 words. So here we have a conservative, meaning less students. So the conservative projection in each of these examples is fewer students, and we're really looking at kind of status quo with a slight decrease projected over time. It's not earth-shattering, but that's the trend. What's interesting is I included in here the actuals for the current year. So 37-38, that little dip you're seeing is actuals, which means, and to the left of it is the projected, so last spring the projected enrollment for this year was higher by a little over 100 students than what we're actually seeing. So while it does show that we're relatively steady with a slight decrease over time, I think that's probably going to be high just based on this 1 year of time. And really where we're seeing that, and I'll go through the schools, is Ben Franklin 4K came in a lot lower than we anticipated, and I should say than what we previously had. It's hard to anticipate 4K because those students aren't with us, before that. It's the first time they're joining our school system, and they don't have to come to 4K here. So, whereas other grades, the straight roll up is often pretty accurate, 4K is hard to project. So, and then we also saw the high school come in lower than we projected as well. So the conservative projections are going to be the lowest amount of students. And again, the conservative projections are even higher than we're actually seeing. And then there's the moderate. Oh man, I don't know what happened to these values. That's really weird, but anyway, the line's still there. So the moderate is showing higher.
They're on it here.
Okay, so they're on the Excel
They're on it,
version.
yeah.
Just not the Google for some reason. So so those are the district-wide ones, and then school by school. This one's Ben Franklin. We've got the grades and then the overall. So this is showing essentially a slight and steady decline. I would not say that's earth-shattering, but again, that's with the lowest kids. It's with the lowest grade levels. It's hardest to project because beyond these kids some of them in future years aren't even born yet,
I
so.
was just gonna say, they're not even here.
You don't even
yet,
have
so-
birth rates to look at data for.
Mhm.
So that's BF. And you could sit and like look at this data for hours and come up with your own conclusions. So my goal is to just like spend a couple minutes like looking at them, looking at our trends, answer any questions that you have. I don't have a crystal ball, but I do have graphs, so. Riverside, Riverside, we've talked about our bubble. So we don't anticipate, like when we were looking at our additional classroom, it's like, okay, are we gonna outgrow it though? Like, is it gonna keep growing? And it is a bubble, so this is showing our bubble. Like we anticipated. Shady Lane, is very similar to BF. Shady Lane did have a higher 4K class than Ben Franklin this year, so that's why we're seeing less of a decline over the years. And then Valley View is our squiggliest graph. So again, a little bit of a ups and downs in our bubble, so we see that when we talk about our section sizes, and it's like kind of like riding the wave, so like you might have a larger class one year and a smaller class another. If we're working on being consistent with our staffing, like that is what happens when you have a graph that looks like this is what your enrollment looks like. And then we see that slight but steady decrease over the years. And then obviously then these kids become our middle schoolers and they're seeing in the next few years an increase, but then it coming back down. And the farther we go out, the harder it is to project. So the less accurate they're going to be the farther the years are out from now. And then high school overall. And again, I would say that based on our knowing that our 24-25 actuals are less than what was projected last year for this year, I think the high school isn't going to increase, and same with the middle school to the extent that.
But you can kind of see as you morph through the elementary schools and the middle schools, that whatever that bubble is, that it carries through consistently
Right.
as they get to that grade level appropriate.
Right, yeah. So nothing earth shattering, but just we had some really interesting data, so that would be important for us to share with our board, and it's out on board docs for anybody. Questions or anything?
Is that survey going out for people who are not?
Yes.
How's
Yep.
that looking?
So we have, I believe it's 28 responses, and there were 81 emails it was sent to, because families have multiple children.
Okay.
So that's about a third. So that's, I would say, pretty good.
That's
I haven't, there were a lot of open-ended comment boxes, so we knew that was gonna take some time. So I saw that there's 28, I have not read all the responses yet. So we'll present that I believe in February.
Okay, great.
That's the first time that we've done that, so we're excited to go about it in that open format, and then obviously we'll continue it over the years. And then I think our intention, right, Caitlin, is to change it to a more of a multiple choice or
Yeah,
true false or drop-down boxes.
Which is nice too in when you get into Google, because then you get graphs, like showing how many people said this response versus this response, instead of just like the way that the Google survey comes, it's like one long, huge run-on box, and you have the open comment box. So it will be nice in future years when we can take our current data that we're gathering right now and then create more of a simplified survey with drop-downs.
Any other questions on this item? Okay, well then we can move on to our second item of discussion, which is the 25-26 budget planning calendar.
All right, so this one is very standard from year to year. It's also attached in board docs. And we start each year with developing budget assumptions and projections. Every other year, it's a little bit easier because we are either in the first or second year of a state biennial budget. We are going into the first year of the state biennial budget, which means we know less right now than we would at this time last year. However, we do know that one of the big factors is the per pupil increase each year in the budget, and we do know that that is $325. Beaver set that last biennial budget for the next 400 years. So that is a big factor that we're just going to use now, 325. It could change, but so could every other budget factor in the budget. So we'll use our 325 in our projections going forward. So not to get too in the weeds, but that kind of starts off and in the background what we're doing right now. We last board meeting talked about open enrollment seats, and then this board meeting, the board will approve our recommendation of no new open enrollment seats at this time. We have today's meeting looking at the budget planning calendar, and then we start getting into the weeds again, like we're in the weeds in the background right now, but we start bringing them to committee in February, looking at budget assumptions. In February, we also have our retirement notices are due, so that's February 28th, and that date doesn't change from year to year. In March, we get deep into budget at the committee level, so we have our budget forecast, and then also that goes hand in hand with our staffing plan. Also at this time, our middle school and high school previously will be registered for classes, so that helps with our planning for staff as well, and section sizes and all of that fun stuff. So we have budget discussions at the committee level in March extensively, and then we have a planned, if needed, closed session in March for non-renewal notices. And then preliminary non-renewal notices due to staff, it's that next week. So again, this is very cyclical, none of this is new, we just really changed the dates to fit this year's calendar. April is, we have committee meeting, and then this is when our final dates are for staffing purposes. Final staffing approval, and we look to do that before the board changes over. Anything else on the prelim staffing plan stuff?
No, we just wanna make sure our goal is to always get everything done before there would be any changes to the board, just so you don't have to start over again, with the whole thing. And then obviously we have statutory deadlines in there for preliminary non-renewal and non-renewal notices, so we couldn't even really restart that process if we wanted to anyway. But staffing is really dependent on enrollment at each grade level, and then, our finances, so it's great that we're connected now in this committee meeting, because I used to have to wait for Caitlin to have hers, so then I could have mine. And so I feel like now we can kind of bring these things in tandem. And not that we want to rush anything, but it's exponentially more efficient for us to be coming together, because our work is just so tied. Staffing makes up the bulk of the budget, and her budget makes the staffing determination, so we're happy to have this meeting together. So I think the bulk of March and April will be that combined information for you.
One big item we're working on that I've made the board aware of, and it's prescription drug spend is, that floated some numbers out there, 1.6 million roughly, and correct me if I'm wrong, I didn't quite Caitlin.
Yep. 1.6
million in prescription drug spend, and just use that to offset about 800,000 of additional new money year over year. I think I have that correct. So we're aware of this before bringing this to committee, and we're working on it, which means Leah and Caitlin and they're dialed in with meetings, and we're aware of it. We've done a lot of pre-meetings and a lot of work, so it's something we're aware of, and when we come to you with those things in the next month or however, just be aware that those are new factors that didn't exist. I mean, those are
So
beyond our control.
our benefits run on a January 1 calendar year versus our fiscal year of July 1. So there actually are probably some changes that we could more behind the scenes be implementing, but we'll bring that forward later. But any actual significant changes with who we contract for benefits with, not benefits with, RX for, that would be a 1-1 change. So any major contractual changes would be a 1-1 change. And so if we do have savings, unfortunately in that first year, you don't realize them all, right away, but.
And at the same time, when you have increases, well, you have half the increase in
Yes.
that year, so.
half the increase in the year. So it's pharmacy is our number one focus for benefits. We actually went down significantly, I don't know, somewhere between 15 and 20% in our medical.
There were like 72, right?
And so going to our
great.
tiered plan, bringing in NICE, that actually works.
Mhm.
And we saw this significant reduction in our medical spend, that's like, you're going to the doctor, that kind of stuff. Unfortunately,
Prescription.
Mhm.
Our prescription costs went up so significantly that not only did it negate any savings we had in medical, it still shot us way above.
So thank goodness we had some savings. So that's-
Yeah, so thank goodness we had those original savings, so we actually feel that the changes we made for like literally this January, and things that we were able to bring in last year, and then a few changes now, did what they were supposed to do. So we're going to have less focus on the medical side now and put all that energy into the RX. And also just so people know, everybody is in this predicament.
Mhm.
The three of us go to local, state, and regional things. And everybody is talking about pharmacy, and that is the number one focus. Everybody has seen substantial increases in that area, so we are not an anomaly. I don't want anyone to think that somehow we're this weird anomaly with our costs.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, we seem to have a higher percentage of high cost claimants than the average school district, but everybody is suffering in the pharmacy realm, and it's actually great that we have all, as fellow school districts, been partnering to share both frustrations but also ideas, and anybody that's had anything, talking about those things. So we're very fortunate that we're in a part of the state that's really working on it together and sharing resources and brainstorming.
Yeah, Waukesha superintendents got together and they're pulling together HR, business, managers, and all of us, meaning from multiple districts, have already gotten together in a few different instances, but we're gonna be doing that again in a formal way, just to talk about these sorts of things. So just wanted to, I know I put some messages out there and the board is aware that we've had a spike in this. I think, Leah's bringing up a valid point, that we're not alone in this. These sorts of things are pretty common around, especially even this area, but we know the state and nation. But it's something that is going to be a driver in our decision-making as we move forward with, obviously, our budget and staffing.
So we continue to have budget discussions through the spring. We have preliminary budget presented, and these dates are subject to change, but right now we have a look at the end of July as an approval for our preliminary budget, and a reminder that our preliminary budget that is approved is what is presented at the annual meeting in September, and that this year is about as early as it can be on September 8th. September then is our third Friday pupil count, which again, that's always the third Friday in September, so that doesn't change from year to year. And then October is when, as we know, we get all of our final budget factors, so we are working on our preliminary budget for months into the year and until October, when we learn our final budget factors and can put together our final budget for approval at the end of October. So October 27th is our date for adopting the original budget and certifying the tax levy, and then those are due to the municipalities by November 10th. So again, nothing really changes from year to year, just the dates that are on here, very cyclical, and we start getting really into the work of the budget and staffing in the next couple months. Any questions?
No questions, concerns? No? Okay, well, that would finish our discussion items, and the last item would be to adjourn the meeting. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
A motion?
A second.
All right, we have a motion to adjourn by Mr. Robert and a second by Ms. Holzman. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, Okay, we are adjourned.